2, 1.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Anime Speedrun Festival 2024. My name is Kinru, and today I will be speedrunning RWBY Grimm Eclipse. Now, before we actually get into anything, what I first need to do is boot up the game here and just do a little configuration. Now, for a little bit of context, RWBY Grimm Eclipse, just your standard hack and slash game really. It's got WASD for movement, left and right click are your attack buttons, there's an ultimate button on Q, as well as jump buttons, dash buttons, you know, that sort of procedure. It's all pretty standard. And there's even a counter button to counter enemies when they go to attack you, which just leaves you wide open if you actually don't counter anything. Now, it is just your typical game where you have all these different buttons to do your different combos. But we're not going to play the game like that. We're going to play a little bit different. So what I need to do first is configure these keybinds here, which I will touch upon a little bit later, but for now I think it's best if we just get into it. So, now I believe all my characters are spec'd and ready to play, hopefully, but we shall see. So, just to double check, was there actually any incentive for costumes? So, just to double check, was there actually any incentive for costumes? I don't think I can hear you, so... Okay, I'm just going to improvise a bit then, and we'll just go for Chapter 4, okay. So, time begins when I hit play. So, this is going to be an all-character, no-skip speedrun. And because there are 10 levels and 8 characters, inherently I'm going to have to play a character twice, but I will explain those when we get there. But for now, we're just going to kick this off as it is. So, RWBY Grimm Eclipse, all characters, no skips, in 3, 2, 1, go. Now, I think I should explain first what I'm actually doing here with the tech. It is known as counter-cancelling. So, basically in this game, the counter button I showed off earlier has a weird function where after you use an air attack, you can press the counter button to drop to the ground faster. Now, the developers knew about this as they were making the game, but in the end they just sort of left it in, thinking, you know, like, what's the harm in like something like that, despite how utterly broken it is. And as it turns out, we can actually just totally demolish the game with it. Now what I'm doing here with the tech is something known as bunny hopping. Now with bunny hopping, basically what you're doing is you're jumping and dashing, using an attack, and then using the counter button afterwards to drop to the ground quicker than usual. And when you repeat that over and over, it comes out faster than just jump dashing by itself. Now you don't need to be as excessive as I'm being here in order to get the most out of your bunny hops. It's just kind of like a play style. I just really like spamming keys. Now, it wasn't actually me who invented this kind of technique. I believe it was more so a Japanese runner known as Alterna, and I just kind of copied his style as it were, but he played on controller and I play on mouse and keyboard, so I had to kind of incorporate my own strategy in order to play like him. At final fights like this, you're basically just... I know where all the spawn locations are, so I'm just doing like efficient killing as they spawn in. And then when one pack is done, I can move on to the next. Now I actually can't see it on my screen either, but I do have a inputs display as well as an APM counter, and that's literally just for like a little bit of added entertainment value. Since usually I do rack up the numbers with buttons after a full playthrough. Now with combat on RWBY, her triple light and heavy attack has a little backflip at the end of it, so what I'm actually doing is hitting the counter button as it ends, and that's going to drop me faster. I went a little bit late on that, but it's all good.
We're almost finished.
Just trying to get these spawns a bit better. It's a bit more like it. A little bit sloppy with the packs there, but it's all good. And that was chapter 1. So, you can basically counter-cancel any attack that makes you airborne, or any air attack. So, jumping and using an air attack you can cancel after, but you can use it for attacks that do make you airborne, which means that you can also do it for shooting. So generally in this game, you'll jump in the air, use your shoot combo, and then press counter afterwards to drop to the ground faster. But you can also do it for individual bullet shots, which hopefully I'll be able to show off with this next character, which is going to be Weiss. Now, I didn't actually mention it, but bunny hopping is the fastest way you can actually move in this game, but I am doing a slightly more advanced version of them, which has no official term, but I call them dash bunny hops. So with dash bunny hops, I am basically holding down the sprint button, and when I press the jump button afterwards, it gives me more height and distance of that jump. That should be okay, yeah. And by incorporating that as an extra layer, I'm getting more out of my bunny hops. Now again, you don't need to absolutely mash the buttons usually to get like the most out of bunny hop, so it's literally just a play style if you want to play that way, but I just find it really fun to spam buttons. Yeah, I thought that would happen. So basically, the enemies in this game have the same hitbox as the pots and crates that are around the map. And because of that, Weiss will sometimes want to shoot those instead of the actual enemies, which can get like a little bit frustrating at times, but you kind of just learn to live with it. And I'm also hitting the pots between the levels because it keeps up my hit streak. So that way I'm going to achieve more ultimate in the long run. Okay, fantastic.
Just a little longer.
Okay, lovely. Going okay so far. A little bit sloppy on some of these shots, but all good. Just counter him. Lovely. Bit of a wrong input there, but it's okay. Okay, fantastic. Now Weiss is like usually a bit more range focused. The beauty of this game is that characters kind of have like their own different flair. So like things they're better at. So RWBY that we just played is more suited for like grounded things, grounded attacks. Whereas Weiss is again like ranged and kind of ult focused. Oh, another input again. Never mind. Right. Now just for a bit of extra swag. It's actually no faster to do that little bit of ledge tech there, but I just always seem to do it because I have the ultimate spare and it's just kind of fun to do. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? It's just like having some fun. Right, what's my tap shooting like at the moment? A little bit sloppy. Now Weiss is actually perfectly suited for this final battle because she's range focused and everything is just like spread out all over the map. So like there, I'm shooting enemies in front of me and then I'll shoot one that's behind me or just like off to the side and it just deals with like two at once. It's pretty handy. Now, there are some waves like this one where it's actually a bit more beneficial to to gather the enemies up first, and then I can just deal with them all at once.
Hold on just a little longer. We're almost finished.
Perfect form.
Fantastic.
No match for me. Goodbye.
Many more to go. And that's that. Now, at the end of this level, there's literally like 40-45 seconds of text, so we just have to kind of sit here. So I usually just take the time to spam buttons because I'm just an absolute idiot basically, and I just find it really fun.
The company was crippled by the collapse of Mountain Glen. They lost their money. Staff.
There is ledge tech in this game for quite a few different characters, but mostly it's exclusive to Team RWBY. So Weiss is you're basically just standing on an edge, using her charged heavy and then pressing counter, and it'll just fling her down the ledge. But if you use an ultimate afterwards, it kind of stores the momentum, as it were, and she just goes flying across the map. It's really fun. There was a little demonstration I did with RWBY, but it was kind of short-lived. But now we're going to go on to arguably the highest APM character in the game now, which is going to be Jaune. Hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate why. Hills can be a little bit frustrating with bunny hops because, like, you're not going to gain that much momentum, but it's kind of funny because your general speed going up hills is actually faster than when you're going down. It's, like, makes no sense, but it's just how it works. Now, Jaune is the highest APM character because of her jump heavy. Okay, that failed, but never mind. So her jump heavy is basically like a single downward hit, and it hits really, really hard. And because of that, you can basically just repeat it over and over, and it becomes her best attack. But there's still like a particular timing to it. So you can't just spam it to your heart's content and expect to basically have the attack come out, because as an example, if I do it too early, there's no downward swipe to indicate the attack had actually come out. We're getting creeps, which isn't amazing. Creeps are generally one of the worst waves to get when you start getting better at the game, because they're the weakest enemy in the game, and the game compensates by giving you more of them. I missed that, but it's okay. Okay, lovely. Yeah, so because they're the weakest enemy in the game compensates by giving you more of them, and you'd rather just have like 4 Beowulfs around you so you can just ultimate as Jaune and just deal with them all at once. But instead you have to kind of like go around the whole map and just chase them down. So it can become a lot slower in some cases, but I mean we still deal with them pretty quickly. Right, now I'm going to try and do a bit of tech here. Dodge that. Okay, lovely. Perfect. So what I was actually doing there is Yang's aerial heavy again, but this time two-handed. And by alternating with my hands, as if I'm like tapping on a drum, it means that I can alternate the button pushes and just absolutely demolish the Grimm. Now that's only really helpful when I'm fighting things like Ursus, because they have no knockback from my attacks. If I was to do that against a creep, for example, it would just get knocked away from me. And I suppose it's a good time now to explain my keybinds a little bit. So all of my movement is basically assigned to my mouse. So that means when I'm using two-handed techniques like that, I actually cannot move my character at all. So, with that in mind, it doesn't become the best when you're fighting stuff that gets knocked away from you, right? So yeah, all my movement is assigned to my mouse. And all of my combat controls are assigned in a kind of line. Because I noticed that people tend to have this kind of natural ability to tap their fingers on a table. As if they're like, you know, like when you're waiting for something. First mini-boss here. He did do the attack I wanted and I kind of scoffed it, but... there, I can tank a hit, it's no problem. I am going to play safe there. Now he's being very stubborn and not using the attack. There we go. Let's slow down a little bit. There we go. Fantastic. So yeah, all of my buttons are basically assigned in a line, because when you tap your fingers along a table, it's like this kind of natural ability everyone has that they can do. And I noticed there's 4 buttons to bunny hop, and conveniently, you have 4 fingers. So with that in mind, I have them all in a line from my pinky running down to my index finger, and it just means that I can bunny hop efficiently. And default keybinds, like, all of your buttons are kind of spread out anyway, which can get a little bit annoying. So if you want to, like, jump, dash, attack, and counter is how you bunny hop. So you would need to press space, shift, left click or right click, and then F. Now, you try doing that fast. It is not the easiest thing in the world, I promise you. Right, it's probably worth as well me explaining why we picked Weiss again here. Now, we picked Weiss because she has the fastest movement in the game. And this level is literally just like an auto-scroller. There's not really like any particular combat in it. So rather than choose a fresh character, I thought let's just not waste any time and pick one of the fastest characters. Now you may be thinking, if it's an auto-scroller, does it really matter, like, that we have the fastest character? And it doesn't, but I basically do it because I am only human and I do fatigue, so to cover the same distance for fewer inputs is basically why I do it. Okay, fantastic. Now, the kill combos that I'm doing on the enemies here, it's not exactly like optimal most of the time. I'm just doing it for like a little bit of added entertainment value. So usually I would be dealing with packs all at once with the same kill combos over and over again, but I know that can get like kind of stale. So I'm just trying to vary it up, make it a bit more interesting to watch. And we have begun now the auto-scroller, so there's literally 2 fights, and then you're doing this bit. It's... yeah. So we're basically just delivering dust into this machine until the end of the level. There's going to be enemies that spawn, but we don't actually need to fight them. Okay, where's it going to spawn? Oh, it is an auto-scroller, but there is a little bit of tech you can do here, or a little bit of strat rather. So the dust can only spawn at one of those nodes in the section. Now, because I had the one when I came in and one over there, there is one more down here, so it is inevitably going to spawn here. If you're fast, you can actually get a double spawn in this room, but it really doesn't matter if you don't, because it's... I mean, as long as you're delivering dust before it runs out of fuel, you're just going to finish it at the same time every single time. And we did get a double. I almost thought we wouldn't there. It's possible it may run out of fuel then, but we'll see. Okay, good. Now because of that, I only need 2 more bits of dust from this room, because I got a third one in the other room. So let's just see. So there's 2 on each side in this room, and basically it's kind of like an odds game you can play. So there's 2 either side. I got 1 from that side. It's more likely to spawn this side, so I'm hanging out over here, but sometimes they do just spawn behind you. But we got the odds there. Again, it doesn't overly matter, because as long as you're just delivering dust efficiently, you're going to do it. That should have been the last one, but just to play it safe, I am going to pick up 1 more, which will spawn next to me. There we go. And the Grimm hate stairs as well, apparently, so you're pretty safe as long as you're up here. And that's chapter 4. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of time sacrifice here, because I'm pretty sure my character's a spec, but I tend to play Blake most of the time in multiplayer lobbies as a support character. So if I suddenly boot up the level and she has her support talents, then it's going to be pretty bad. I don't think she does, but it's just to play it safe. So I'm going to respec her. It's going to take literally about 4 or 5 seconds. So yeah, that was the one of the double characters. So again, there's 8 characters and 10 levels. So I'm going to have to play one twice, and Weiss was one of them. But for now, we're going to go on to completely fresh characters. So, bit Blake here. I am going to respec. It was that, and then just in there for whatever. I don't think I really need the survival, but it's, you know, just a floater point. I think I got it, yeah. I don't know if it's a common thing, but I always seem to know when I get a key, because my screen will stutter just like a little tiny bit. I'm not sure if you caught it, but every time that happens, I know that I've busted the key out of one of those pots or crates. And it's pretty consistent through most of the levels, so I kind of always use that as an indicator. That's all good. Lovely. Now, I'm doing a little thing there, which I actually don't know if it's optimal or anything, but I always love doing it. I call it the Blake bomb. So, Blake has a triple light and heavy attack, which leaves a clone, and because it makes her airborne, I like to basically counter afterwards, and just drop an ultimate as I do. It's funny how stubborn Bales can be sometimes. I'm basically spamming her aerial heavy over and over again to proc team attacks on the Grimm, because it is actually the best way to do it in the game. A lot of people think it's Ren, and Ren is pretty close, don't get me wrong, but Blake just does it so much better. But sometimes Grimm can be stubborn and don't actually proc team attacks. But I suppose it's a good idea to actually explain what team attacks actually are. So, team attacks are basically like the ultimate stun. There's like a stun you can do here above their head, but it's not actually a true stun, because the Grimm can just break out of it after you hit them a few times. But team attacks aren't like that. They'll just remain stunned as long as you... Losing my focus a bit here. It's a bit better. Okay, lovely. So team attacks, they'll only break under two circumstances. Either you execute the team attack or the timer runs out. You could argue as well, like, killing the Grimm will actually do it, but that's, you know, kind of self-explanatory. But other than that, the team attack will always remain there, and it lasts a lot longer than the regular stuns do. Alright, I'll probably deal with these in group formation now. Been playing a little bit rubbish on Blake, but it's all good. Just gonna go up this hill. Now it's the final fight of the mission here. And it's basically, in this game, RNG is one of the deciding factors, like the main deciding factors of how well you do in a run. Because there's set spawn waves that you can have for each level, apart from chapters 1 and 2. And if you get like bad RNG, then you're just going to inherently have a worse time. So what I'm actually doing in waved encounters like these is I'm looking in the top right corner, or top left rather, and I'm just seeing the number that spawns in, so it'll give me a pretty good indication of what I'm about to fight, and then I can kind of prepare for it mentally, just those few seconds beforehand. Right, gonna do a little bit of strat here, hopefully we get it. I missed the final bit, but it's okay. Ooh. Right, we'll go for it once more. It doesn't overly matter. Alright, there we go. So basically, the way you fight mutated Beowulfs, usually, is you'll shoot them and then use a charged heavy on them. And you can do 3 charged heavies usually in a row, or you can shoot charged heavy, shoot charged heavy. But when you shoot and charged heavy them on Blake, they'll instantly break out of the stun, so there's no way to actually hit them, because they'll take 3 hits after being shot before they break out of the stun, and obviously when they're stunned they take more damage. Now to get around that, I use a triple light heavy attack, counter-cancelled into a uncharged heavy, and then I use a charged heavy at the end, as well as shooting it. And that basically just means that I can... It basically just means that I can get all 3 hits without having to rely on just heavy attacks. Pretty good RNG. Anyway, now we're playing Pyrrha. Pyrrha is pretty straightforward. You're basically just wanting to, like, ult everything. And I'm not sure if you noticed it there, but there was, again, like, a little stutter as the key broke out of the crate. So yeah, Pyrrha's main thing is just ulting everything. Her ult is just, like, insanely broken, which I should be able to explain here. And it's gone. Right, so... yeah, Pyrrha's ult is just, like, absurdly broken. It's, like, not even funny. She just demolishes things like Ursa's without too much difficulty.
Leave it to me. I knew we could do it. Keep your eyes peeled for a second key.
Alright, there we go.
Found it.
Now, you might have noticed that there is no cooldown for the actual voice lines when you use your aerial attacks, and for some I know that they don't overly like it, like it can get a little bit annoying to them, but for me it's like an indication of how well you're doing with breaking the game. I just find it really humorous.
Leave it
Bit sloppy with the combat. Right, there'll be an alpha now. I'm just going to spam uncharged heavy at it just to get some extra ult, because you can't kill it before it goes to attack you anyway without using an ultimate. So I may as well just farm some extra ult on that.
Dr. Ublek, this is no ordinary temple.
This tip looks like it's being used to step right start.
I'm sure you've noticed as well, but I do input errors quite a lot. I do actually have an issue on this keyboard where it does double inputs quite frequently, so I'm sure that does catch me out now and again, with basically pressing the counter button twice as I land, and then I'll just counter on the ground. But I do believe as well, for the most part, it is just going to be me messing up inputs. Oh, input error. Again, just going to farm some ult here. Now, Pyrrha's bread and butter move is usually her charged heavy, but I like to spam her uncharged heavy quite a lot, because it just does a load of damage, gives you a load of ult meter, just due to the nature of it being a multi-hitting move. Still on cooldown, but there we go. So spawn locations in this game do have a cooldown, which is another reason why you have to kind of know a specific spawn pattern as you go around. Should be it. Almost.
We won again? Is that a new record?
Great job, you made it to the ship.
But now,
I may need you to
we're going to go on to the strongest character in the game, which is going to be Nora. And the reason she's the strongest character is because she has a damage buff built into her kit, which is just insanely broken. It's not even funny. So basically, if you have a damage buff built into your kit, you're just inherently pretty much going to outperform everyone else, because you're doing like twice as much damage as you usually should be able to. And because Nora has it built into her kit with no particular cooldown, you can just basically have it up most of the time. Now, the condition to actually activate the damage buff is you need to hit things 5 times in a row. And that's very easy to do when Nora has multi-hitting abilities. Bit of an input error, but that's okay. So, for most people, androids in this game are like really annoying, but when you're playing Nora, like, you can just deal with them as they spawn in, and it's like not really a concern for you. And yes, her voice line is somewhat obnoxious when you're doing counter-cancelling. But again, I just find it really funny. Right, so just need to go around here, hit a switch.
I have no idea what he said.
Whatever you did,
Right.
radio seems to be giving me some feedback, so I'm not sure how much. Crates somewhere else on that island. You must make sure at all costs that you do make it. Understood?
So what I'm doing with Beowulfs is I like to do my aerial heavy against them, but when you don't hit them directly on with it, as in you do it from a distance, they always live on that sliver of health. So after the aerial heavy, I use a counter cancel for like a little hop Nora does at the end of her attack, and I just fire a shot, and it basically just always guarantees that you're going to deal with the Beowulf.
It's working. The signal seems better, but for some reason, I'm not sure if you can still hear me. Just a little more and I can pinpoint your
Getting a little bit unlucky this run with the creep waves, unfortunately, but it's just part and parcel of RNG, unfortunately. Now, there's diminishing returns with bunny hopping, so when I'm spamming it like that, like an absolute idiot, it's actually not making me go any faster, really. But I just love spamming buttons, it's just one of my joys in this game. So even though it makes me go slower, I just often find myself doing it. There's many ways to cheese that relic as well, but that one is Nora specific.
What did you do with Dr. Oobleck?
Oh, where are my manners? Allow me to introduce myself.
She actually has a little bit of tech as well with this lightning chain talent here. So it reduces the attack for some reason of... Just a second. Important. When he says the word important, I'll shoot these crates because there's 5 of them. So conveniently, that's going to activate my damage buff before the round even starts. But yeah, like there is an example. For some reason, that talent reduces time between Nora's attacks. So I'm able to actually chain attacks together there, her light attacks, which I do tend to utilise quite a lot.
So, we meet again, Dr. Merlot.
I'll spin.
But because Nora's the best character in the game, and she kind of just destroys stuff as they spawn in, like, I wouldn't call these fights so much as they are just slaughters.
I thought you perished in the Mountain Glen disaster. A tragedy you played no small part in.
'Twas a mere speed bump on the superhighway of scientific progress. You couldn't possibly imagine the ramifications of my latest research.
Okay. Again, I'm just glancing up at the counter for the enemies before the round actually starts, and it gives me an indication of what I need to fight, so I know there's an Ursa at the end of this.
You're calling me the reckless one, sending your students out on an excursion like this.
They're more than a match for your mindless robots.
What we got now? Another Ursa wave. All good. Lovely. And that was chapter 7.
Trying to make the world a better place is wrong. Say what you will.
Now, it does want you to go
The fact that you're powerless
down this path after the level has been completed, but it doesn't actually do anything. It just kind of opens out to a,
tell you ours. It
like, just a blank desert.
catching up. But
So it's all just kind of like smoke and mirrors. You don't actually have to go down this path, but I always like coming up here because
Locate Merlot's
it's just a nice view, basically.
I need you to continue exploring and contact me when you find any evidence of his whereabouts.
I'm Queen of the Castle. I'm Queen
Right, so now we're going on to chapter 8, and for that we're going to be playing Rennie Boy. Now Ren is probably one of the more two-dimensional characters in this game, sadly. He doesn't really have too much to him, but he still, of course, has, like, some tech.
I don't like the looks of this place.
Students, have you found something?
We're on the opposite side of the island, and
One of the more funny bits of tech, if you want to call it that, is he can't use this heavy attack, the bunny hop. Just gives him, like, no distance at all.
Whatever he's using it for can't be good.
So what I'm going to be doing on Ren for packs of Beowulfs is I'm going to hit them with the first tick of his aerial heavy. And that's going to gather up all the Beowulfs, and then after I can turn around and use my AoE heavy to hit them. Now you may be thinking, does it really matter about gathering them up if it's an AoE? And it usually shouldn't, but funnily enough, when you hit enemies behind you with that, it does less damage than the ones in front, so it is worth gathering them up. Lovely. And there's a little bug with Ren, where after you counter a ranged attack, you actually can't gain any ultimate. Like, you can see my ultimate isn't going up at all. And the only way to counter that is to do his ranged ability, his full combo, and now I can gain meter again.
Path has been chosen for us.
And that used to bug me for the longest time. I used to always like quit out of my game in order to reset it. But yeah, you really don't need to do that. Let's deal with them, lovely. What we got next? Probably androids. Yep, lovely. Yeah, for androids, what I'm basically doing is usually, if I don't have time, I'll use an ultimate and let it like bounce between them, because you're invulnerable while you do it and it just deals with them. But if you can, it is always better just to use 2 charged heavies to deal with one spawning in and just ult the other, because you're going to use one ult anyway, and it just saves a bit of time rather than bouncing between them. Lovely.
All right, this one's closed.
Now, I will say I haven't been going that crazy with button presses this playthrough. I've actually been playing quite bad, if anything. But usually, as a kind of like average, if I were to be spamming keys and doing a full playthrough, it should be roughly about 20,000 key presses, something like that. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to be underperforming here. But, you know, it happens. All good. Oh, hello. Alright, now it should be androids at the end, right? Lovely. Okay. Messing up my timings a little bit here, but it should be okay. Now the good thing about doing this as well is look at my ult meter. It literally just flies up as you're doing it, so I never really have to worry about having enough ultimate for the androids. It's just always there, more or less. Now I can hit him a bit more. Fantastic. There'll be one more. Hopefully we get 2 androids here. Never lucky, but it's all good. Well, I actually missed that. This might kill it. Yeah, fantastic. Now on Ren, I actually do run the talent to increase his aura regen, which may seem like a defensive talent, but it's actually an offensive one, because you drain 50% of your aura when you use his charged heavy attack. So, if I can regen that faster, I'm basically going to be doing heavy damage, since once it's actually done, he just does his regular one, which does quite a lot less. Significantly so. Right. So now we're going to be playing Jaune Boy, who is the second best character in the game. And you may have guessed the reason why. He has a damage buff in his kit. So, now, he's not quite as strong as Nora because his damage buff basically comes from his ultimate, whereas Nora just has it in her kit built in. So she kind of just doesn't sacrifice an attack in that sense. And you know, just like casually going through the level in your gym jams, just destroying everything, it's always just pretty humorous to me.
Here at Merlot Industries, we take pride in innovation. Together, with your help and a little...
I'm just going to see what waves I get, because if I get creeps, it's not actually worth me using an ultimate here, but that is. Absolutely.
Did anyone see that?
I'm a little bit low on ultimate now, but it should be okay.
Where's this elevator taking us?
Here before you are
Again, like, your ultimate can just fluctuate due to things like RNG. And I'm just dashing over those because you don't really want to bunny hop past enemies that are going to attack you. Because, again, you are still countering whilst in the air. And that's basically going to mean that you're going to counter them rather than actually bunny hop. We've got Beowulfs, which is lovely. A little bit shaky with the combat today, but it's alright.
I would appreciate it if you didn't break all my things. But alas, my android will rebuild it in no time. This way, please.
Now it's quite funny because in the show, if you've ever watched it, Jaune is kind of like the underdog in a sense. He's kind of like the joke of the show when it comes to things like combat, because it's like, oh, he's like so bad at it or whatever. And they usually make fun of him, but in RWBY Grimm Eclipse, like, he's literally the second best character besides Nora.
Whoa, it's a lot of computers.
Good find, team. Do you see any targets that you can access?
Nope, just a ton more bad guys. Oh, I didn't screw up.
Right, so now we're doing the final fight of the mission. I have plenty of ultimate, which is quite lovely. And that would be due to having the creep wave spawn before, so I didn't have to waste one.
It should be uploading now.
You did. Now, can you proxy the signal over to me with your scroll?
Prepare to meet your doom, students.
Now, something to note about Sean's ultimate
Crush them.
is you don't really want to be doing it when you're surrounded by Grimm. It's a lot better. If I can do an example here, we've got Beowulfs. Never lucky. Perhaps on the last one. I'll do an example here. So basically, if you do an ultimate when you're surrounded, you're going to knock them in like a donut shape around you. And it would be a lot better
Would you rip them apart already?
if you actually just jumped away from them. And then just knock them in the same direction.
Who's the wimp now?
And there'll be one more of those.
It's complete.
Okay, so now we're going to play Nora again.
Yes, I
And there's a very specific reason for that, besides her being the best character.
to the manufacturing
So,
wing.
if you've ever played this game before, you know that the final boss is literally just like a massive pain, like no one really likes dealing with it. So, rather than spend about, like 2 or 3 minutes trying to fight it, I'm going to try and deal with it in about 40 seconds. Now, this strat that I incorporate, it isn't always that consistent. I would say it has roughly maybe like an 80% success rate or so.
Longest shot.
But, I mean, it heavily just relies on what the enemy chooses to do. A big factor of it is Android Grenade RNG. Like, that's kind of a deciding factor.
Let's drain his power.
Just going to deal with these with shooting, because it just saves a bit of time compared to running up to them.
That will deliver a shock to Merlot's system.
That's how you want to play?
Did someone hit a button on the elevator? I swear it wasn't me this time. Y'all get
Okay.
this, bust that bin open.
So we're actually almost at the final stage. Chapter 10 isn't actually that long, but
According to my map of the lab, this room
it can get a little bit tedious depending on how the boss goes. Now, just to kind of set a few, set the stage a little, if I don't get the kill strategy, I am just going to fight the boss normally, but I should still have done a bit of damage to it. But if I get downed, I will go for the strat again. Right, so this is the final area here, but there is about 3 or 4 waves we have to deal with before we actually face the boss.
So far, the data is looking very impressive.
Fantastic work. I must admit, you really handled this well. The team back at Beacon is cheering for you.
If this is the kind of stuff Huntresses do every day, then I am so in.
Welcome to the testing ground, students. Why don't you go ahead and get acquainted with my test subjects?
Okay, so 4 waves, and then we're going to get onto the boss. Now, when I actually do fight the mutated Deathstalker, I am going to be a bit more quiet than usual. And that is literally just so I can focus on it, because this strategy does take a little bit of concentration. Right. Pretty good RNG so far. Okay, 1 more wave, and then we're gonna go. So, hopefully it all goes to plan. Right, so here we go.
And so it has come to this.
Let's do it, this oversized bug.
Don't be shy, students. You could learn a lot from this enhanced specimen. They won't teach you a thing about this back at Beacon. You're easy prey. Is that the best you got?
Okay, it spawned relatively quick, but nothing that can't be dealt with.
He's looking hungry. No doubt you'll savor your taste as I savor my
And that should be it. Fantastic. So luckily, we didn't get screwed over by RNG there. Usually some things can happen, like a grenade lands next to you and knocks you away, and it just reduces your health. Which is another reason why I run, like, quite heavy defensive talents on Nora, just so I can actually do that strategy.
Merlot is going to blow up the whole lab. You've got to escape.
Time is going to be called, as well, when the screen fades to black and the ship picks us up, so it is very, very close now, so...
See you as soon as we land safely back at Beacon.
And... time. So yeah, that was RWBY Grimm Eclipse. I hope you enjoyed. It's kind of hard to cover all the different things I'm doing as it's like going through, because it generally just goes past quite quickly. But yeah, it's a really intricate game, a lot more so than people actually give it credit for, I believe. And to me, I think it's really worth getting into. So, just want to give a few shout-outs as well to the RWBY Speedrun community. Like, you guys are awesome. We're not very big, but we're always welcoming to new runners. So, if you want to pick this game up, we're a friendly bunch, don't be afraid. And, yeah. So, that was me. I was Kinru. And that was RWBY Grimm Eclipse. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much, Kinru. We will be now preparing for Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising from our very own Final Crash. So we're going to go get that set up, and we'll be back with you as soon as we have that all available. So stick with us, everybody.